Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back, and we are back to Married at First Sight UK series 10. We are now on episode 9. I'm getting there, so give me time people, give me time. Anyway, you know what has to happen before we get into this video. We have to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button so you know when I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share, do what it is you need to do, because I continue to be on the road to 1k, my people, to 1k. Anyway, so it's experts week at time today. So I kind of seen from the edits, and I keep saying to myself I should not rely on the edits, but I know there's going to be clashes amongst some of these couples, more so with Anita and Paul, and more so with Nelly and Stephen, especially with Stephen and Kia having a few choice words, let me put him that way. But all I'm going to say at this point is Kia put that boy in his place. Kia put that boy in his rotted place, and I was here for it. I was clapping at the screen like, yes my son, go on. So we now have Q and David, who are doing well. We end up going to Sarah and Dean. Honestly, it's still not a good atmosphere in that place with them. I think hell may have done and got frosty in this scenario with these two at the end of the day. So Dean is talking about how he was completely blindsided by the fact that, you know, the stuff that was shared out in regards to Sarah, speaking about him badly and disgustingly and disrespectfully so to other people within the group. I must say it clear. Sarah is a two-faced person, to be honest. She will behave one way in Dean's face to literally get him on side with what it is that she wants to get him on side with, and then be completely different behind his back, yeah? So for me, her going around and doing what she was doing behind Dean's back was par for the course for this gal at the moment, at the end of the day. So Dean does speak to Sarah and talks about like her disrespect is a red flag for him. I mean, how she treated you from the wedding to the honeymoon to the apartments has been a whole running big red flag, to be honest with ya, at the end of the day. So he tells her basically it wasn't okay, as he wants his wife to champion him. I thought, mate, you're literally flogging a dead horse. You're not going to get this from Sarah. You're seriously not going to get this from this girl, yeah? When he's talking to her, it's almost like she is not remotely interested in what he has to say, to be honest. As long as she can get her point out and get him on side, then she's fine. Anything else that Dean has to say, she either pulls a face that looks like she smelled a dirty ass fart, yeah, or she literally just wants to go and not really listen to what it is that Dean is saying. So Dean has got to a point where he's literally compartmentalizing his own emotions. In other words, he is not saying what's impacting him. He is not saying how he feels in this scenario, because Sarah's feelings and everything else has completely overtaken. So Sarah's basically saying that, you know what happened on the couch was a full-on wake-up call. She needs to consider this man's feelings at all times. That's what she's saying. She needs to consider his feelings at all times. I'm sorry, but I'm not sold on that. I'm not sold on what Sarah is saying. The proof will come in the pudding, to be fair. So she says to the camera like she likes Dean and she doesn't want to hurt him. But that's what she did. She did hurt him. She knew what she was going to do would ultimately hurt Dean if he found out, but she did it anyway. So she does need to accept that she hurt Dean. Yeah, ain't no changing that. She hurt that man. She needs to realise that. And to be honest, Dean needs to know his own self-worth to get the fuck out of that situation. But I know that he won't, because he's literally dying to be able to have this woman call her his own and his wife. So we go and see Julia, Ruth and Devani. He basically says that the bits that stood out to him in regards to the confessions of the couch time were that they need to separate and have time away from each other when things get too much. But I'm saying that doesn't seem to happen in practice with this man, because things will get to a point where they get aggressive with each other, aggressively verbal with each other, or more so Davani trying to, you know, put his point out there because he's upset with whatever it is that Julie Rufus said, and literally not taking his own stance in terms of, I need to take a step back from now on because I'm not creating a safe space for this person. But again, we'll see how that goes. So we go to Anita and Paul. They're talking about how they don't have an initial spark, but they're still in separate apartments, and not living in a separate living space. Anita just basically said that she does wish to try with Paul, but I don't know if she really wants to be honest with you. Paul says he feels upset that Anita wanted to leave, and he said in his wedding vows that he'd give it 100%, and so far I can't fault Paul. He has given it some type of percentage, more of a lukewarm percentage, yeah, but we'll see if things can change with them. Since Anita does ask Paul, like, why do you think I wrote leave? So Paul does say to her, like, you came here to find love, which is true. And I'm like, well, what else did she come here to find, Paul? He literally again went on the defensive and said, like, the word missing was for Anita. She came out here to find instant love. And he says, like, you know, we're only 8 days in. And I thought, Paul, did you really not hear what Anita said on that couch, or is he playing dense? Because I'm just really confused, bamboozled, confused, all the foozles at the moment with this man. Anita said, like, a whole lot more on that chair in regards to where she's at, and Anita's talking about how she feels like she's wasting her time with Paul, and he is reiterating exactly why she wrote leave. So Anita again had to explain it to him in terms of his lack of interest. So Anita said, do you expect me to just go like, hey, my name is Anita and here it is, all about me, and do the damn whole show and tell basically? Paul said yes. He didn't believe that was a problem. As Anita said, Paul is a damn good talker. He really is, and he can talk about himself to the cows come home at the end of the day. The problem that he has is he is not able to communicate enough in order to get to know the person that he's with, and judges everyone by his own yardstick, yeah, and actions. Like, no one is going to volunteer the information about themselves that he is seeking unless they're fucking arrogant enough to believe that people want to know this without prompting. It don't work like that. Because if I went up to someone and started belting out a conversation talking about me, myself and I, people would look at me as if to say, who the fuck you talking? What, did we need this information? A bit of overkill? Do you know what I mean? So after the confessions of the couch, I call it, some of the galleys and some of the men went to the bar to let off steam. I just thought, I feel a story time coming on. So after the couch, they're talking about the fact, it's more Rebecca talking to Bailey, that Nellie and Stephen seem to have a disagreement. And Rebecca says from then Stephen kind of went in on himself. This man has been going in on himself from the honeymoon love. This is not new territory for this man. Let me just put it this way. Stephen is a motherfucking ass, right? So basically, Nellie said that she needed reassurance from Stephen from coming off the couch. The other couples ended up picking up that Nellie needed this reassurance from Stephen to see that everything was okay. So Bailey ended up saying that as a typical man that Stephen is, whenever like they hear like, you know, people trying to tell you to do X, Y and Z, they're literally going to step back and they're not going to do it. I was like, oh shit, what happened with this shit now? Really well and truly, what happened with this shit now? So Stephen didn't want people telling him what to do. So apparently he decided to go in on himself more. So what it sounds to me is like, after they had the chat on the couch, Nellie needed Stephen, emotionally wise, okay, to prop her back up. He decided that he couldn't give her the reassurance that she was looking for in that moment. People mentioning it decided to get Stephen's back up because he felt that he was being told how he needed to behave and react with Nellie. So he decided to go the opposite fuckshit way and refused to give Nellie anything of what she was asking for, is what I heard basically from all of that. So for me, that was a big ass change from all the singing and dancing that they were doing on the motherfucking couch. And I do again apologise for all the swearing that I do and the foul language that I put down, but when I get het up, when I get excited about things, this is what happens. You ain't gonna watch it if you don't want to watch it. If you don't want to hear the foul language, then you know what you can do in that sense. But anyway, as I say, people that use swear words are actually quite intelligent. And it's a proven study. So there you go. So we go to Stephen and Nelly is basically sharing in terms of what they had around their first bit of conflict. So Nelly says the past couple of days, like, she's felt an edge as Stephen has not been the same since the honeymoon. She says that she's become a little bit more needy, and I did say that Stephen, one of his pet peeves is he cannot stand neediness. So I kind of knew that Stephen would start acting in a certain way no matter how he talked himself up on that couch. So they did go out for drinks, and others do begin to pick up on Nelly was presenting in some way and was saying to Stephen, like, just go and tell her she looks good. And to be honest, just a little bit, if people are telling me how to chat to my person that I'm with, yeah, it kind of would get my back up at the end of the day, because you know what, this is my partner, it ain't your business. But I will stand corrected on this because certain other things managed to come out around this situation. So Nelly is kind of like saying sorry that she's got upset, but like, you know, these are her friends and she will lean on them if needed for that reassurance. And that's kind of an issue, because at the end of the day, if you're not getting reassurance from your man, your best bet is to go to your man and say to him, what the fuck, what's going on? Do you know what I mean? Don't reverse Uno the dude. Don't reverse Uno the dude and then go to your friends in terms of telling them what's the dealio, because well and truly they are going to show up for you, but then sometimes it's not the right place for them to show up for you, and you need to deal with that situation by yourself. Anyway, Stephen says he felt uneasy as he's saying that Kia walked in with Nelly, and he says Kia asked him to compliment Nelly, so it got Stephen's back up as he had no idea why Kia got involved. So what Stephen was trying to say is that Nelly must have said something for Kia to do what he did, and he did not appreciate that. You see, Stephen basically talk to the cameras, and he talks about how people coming in, Kia being the main instigator, telling Stephen he had to compliment Nelly. So Stephen basically mentioned that Kia said Nelly had worn this top for you, and he thought, well, what has Nelly been saying? So basically Nelly told Stephen that he'd pulled back since the honeymoon. So Nelly is telling this man directly to his face exactly what she's thinking and feeling right now. And sometimes I would say for Nelly, someone has to vent outside of the relationship to gain a perspective, but it does depend on what is said to said person for another person to then react with Stephen. But I felt in that moment that when Nelly was explaining it to Stephen, she was glossing over key factors of what it is that she may have said to Kia at the end of the day. So Stephen is basically saying, like, in that moment it felt like Nelly had gone behind his back and started talking shit, which it would do, but the way in which he's talking to Nelly I do not appreciate. He needed to calm his little tone down, yeah, because Nelly did not deserve him coming at her in the way that he was coming at her at the end of the day. Nelly is defending herself, don't get me wrong, and saying that, you know what, she didn't have that type of conversation with Kia at the end of the day, but also Kia is a law unto himself, yeah, and he is the type of person that if he sees a friend in pain, he will try to rectify it for them. He is not afraid to stand on business at the end of the day. So his goodness, Kia's goodness, was not misplaced. So that's why I think Nelly would have said more to Kia than what she's letting on to Stephen. But then also, she don't want to release that to Stephen because he's acting in a manner, yeah, that won't get nobody to open up and have that frank conversation with them, because he's acting like an absolute arsehole. So Stephen talks about, like, you know, Kia don't like no one knowing shit at the end of the day. This is how he's talking to Nelly, and I was like, be for fucking real, Stephen. Do you know what I mean? I understood where he was coming from, but he was taking it a little bit too far in the way that he was talking to this girl. So with Kia stepping in and speaking the way that Stephen purported it to be, he says that Kia's making the situation worse than it actually is. And I thought, well, to be fair, Stephen, you're making it worse. Like, as the conversation could have been left between him and Nelly, yeah. But no. He had to be the big I am and go talk to Kia as well. He's there telling her, like, you know, she will get to see a side of him, what she won't like. And at that point, I was like, bitch, please. I really don't like when people speak to other people like this, especially when you are trying to rectify what the fuck happened and understand why it happened. Again, way too far. So Nelly does kind of stand on her business and says, let's be honest, yeah, you ain't been the same since the honeymoon at the end of the day. And as I said, this is why she's seeking more reassurance from Stephen. So he needs to fess up about where this disconnect is coming from with him. So now Stephen is using what was said on the couch to Paul in terms of Nelly saying at the dinner table, like in terms of being vulnerable against her, as he mentions, like, you know, because you will look for things you have already created scenarios in your head where it might go wrong. And I said, mate, seriously, this is where you offer the reassurance that it won't go wrong, and she needs to look for the green flags as Paul the expert said she needs to do. Yeah, I don't like it when people throw things back in your face like that, especially when you have been at your most vulnerable, yeah, to open up and they use it as ammo against you in order to prove a motherfucking point. Because at the end of the day, I'm really honest in this, yeah, this is where Stephen lost me, like fully lost me in this conversation at the end of the day. So Nelly is having to re-explain herself and it makes her emotional upset, and Nelly ends up having to apologize to him for her crying. I was just like, is this for real? Because whilst this is happening, Stephen's just sitting there, just looking in her face, not offering no support or reassurance or whatsoever. And that tells me this man don't like that girl. He don't like that girl. He's playing at being married right about now, but he don't like that girl. He really don't. So this man had the audacity to say, if you are already in the self-sabotage mode, then it becomes a problem. Because when she's herself is when it will go back to the honeymoon stage. I just thought, yeah, Stephen, you're chatting bollocks. Because at the end of the day, she's feeling distance from you, which is causing her to overthink and need the reassurance. But then he blames it on her neediness and says she needs to go back to how she was on the honeymoon. Then he will be the same. What in the hell type of psycho babble shit was that? Now, seriously, well and truly, where is this man coming from? Because I swear down, he must be coming down from the freaking last light shower. Like, seriously, because he ain't righted. He is not righted. So he literally made the whole situation Nelly's fault that he had changed since the honeymoon. So Stephen said his main issue is with other people, so he will have conversations with those other people. All I'm going to say is it ain't going to end well for Stephen. It really ain't, because he's going to fuck around and find out with the wrong rotted person. And Kia is the wrong person to fuck around and find out with. Let me just put it that way. So then we have Lee believing that Leah was being a bit flirty with Rebecca. I was like, oh, mate, come on. I know we don't have the footage and I don't want to invalidate Lee's feelings, yeah. But I'm going to say from jump, yeah, Leah strikes me as a woman who likes the banter. Like, she likes the banter, and not all banter means flirting. I love a good banter. Honestly, love a good banter. And people on the outside could be looking at, oh, them two like each other. No. No, we don't like each other like that, in that sense. But because we're friends, I like the banter. If you can give as good as I give, then yes, we're there, we're locked in, we're bantering. Do you know what I mean? It don't mean flirting. So basically, Rebecca for Leah is from the same area, so that's why she's gravitated more towards Rebecca in that sense. And I was just like, the bottom line is, Lee liked Leah more than she thought she would. This gal got jealous and started getting territorial over Leah. Let me just put it that way. So apparently Leah says to Lee, like, you got jealous over Rebecca. So Lee pounced on her word. I was like, huh? Has things changed for Lee? She didn't deny that she got jealous though, and said, if I wasn't and I saw you as a friend, then I wouldn't be feeling the way that I'm feeling. I thought, okay, is Lee on the path to liking Leah? Because if he is, this is ace. And then they kissed. I was like, they kissed? They lipsed? Oh, I thought, you know what, maybe, just maybe Lee's growing on me. Maybe she ain't too hurried, do you know what I mean, since they've moved in together. Because this is a turn up for the motherfucking bucks. Let me just put it that way. We get to the stage showdown. Yeah, because it is a stage showdown basically, because you know all the cameras and everything are going to be there. Stephen wanted to speak to Kia, and I thought, you know what, Stephen, if you're going off for Kia, you better come with some respect. Yeah, because I'm telling you, Kia is not the one with the issue, it's you at the end of the day. So he says he does not like the way Kia was being with Nelly, parading her around like she was a bit of meat. And I was like, hold on. Wasn't this man literally mad at Kia for telling Stephen to tell Nelly that she looked nice in her top? That's what he was mad at, being told how to reassure this gal. It weren't cause he felt Kia was parading Nelly around like a piece of meat. Get the fuck out of here. So now he's trying to say Kia's actions has directly affected his marriage. No, Stephen, your marriage was impacted from when you got back from the honeymoon because of your distance. Yeah. How about you start with that? It had nothing to do with Kia, but of course Stephen is looking for someone to place blame on and proportion the blame onto. He wants to take himself out of this situation and blame just Kia and Nelly as to how things resulted. So Stephen starts the conversation with Kia like getting frustrated with him, and he wanted people to basically fuck off. Those were his words about the distance stuff. And this is after he said what he said on the couch, that he was reassuring Nelly through action, but he couldn't do it when she needed it most. And the question is why. So he went there to say Kia winding up by saying a comment and commenting on Nelly's outfit and how they made her breasts look. I mean, if Kia did make a comment on her breasts, that probably would be a tad too far, but would I see an issue with it? Nope. So he came there to tell Kia to leave them alone. Phone call would have done it, mate. A phone call would have done it. So Kia basically says, like, I'm confused to what it is that I have supposed to have done, as Nelly said to him that she was feeling down and didn't feel cute about herself. And this is why I said Nelly said more than what she was letting on to Stephen. But again, in terms of what she said, it ain't that deep. Stephen's making it so, and that's why I'm saying something is not connecting here with this dude. So Kia said, yeah, I bigged her up and then walked her in, span her around, you know what some gay men do, because trust me, I've had that done to me, and it feels fucking amazing. It really does. And he says to Stephen, look how amazing your wife looks. So Stephen is only seeing what he wishes to remember happened at the end of the day. He took his BS out on the wrong person. Let's just put it that way. Because Kia was giving him the clap back. Like proper giving him the clap back. Stephen didn't know where to fucking put himself at the end of the day. Stephen ended up walking out of that room, his tail between his legs, because at the end of the day, Kia rightfully says, I cannot be accountable for your assumptions. That is a you problem, not a me problem. All I'm gonna say is, yes, Kia. Yes. Basically, Kia told him he didn't really give a flying fuck about his relationship, because that's not what he was here for at the end of the day. He is there for himself and his husband. Yeah, so Stephen was getting drawn out. Kia says, I am a supporter, I am a cheerleader, and if you assumed more than that, then that's on you, Stephen, at the end of the day. And I was like, come on with it, Kia. So again, Stephen's trying to explain himself off, and again it's coming off weak, because all of it is based on his need to blame someone but himself for how he made Nelly feel. So Stephen's there about, stay out of my business. Kia stood on business. He said, if Nelly or anyone came to me and said they feel shit about themselves, best believe I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to big them up, I'm going to cheerlead for them, and I'm going to support them. Yeah, so Kia's not getting out of your business anytime soon, Stephen. So suck it up, buttercup. So Stephen still says to the cameras though, like, I'm still feeling pissed off. mate, be pissed off at yourself. Yeah, having a go at a person who was doing the job that you should have been doing in terms of making your wife feel good about herself. Kia has came in there and fucked you all the way up, basically, about he's affecting your marriage. No, he wasn't affecting your marriage. Just go sit down somewhere is what I would say. So the expert suite starts. So Charlene is the intimacy expert. So some couples have been invited to an intimacy workshop with Charlene. So all I was thinking, dressing up, tech, some toys, tech. I'm a brat. Yeah, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. Yeah, I would definitely be all up in there, all day, every day. Yeah, I'm a strong-minded person. Yeah, so what I would say, it would take someone that is that kind of ilk to be able to deal with the likes of me, and that, my friends, is a conversation for another day. But those that know, do you know what I mean? So they have outfits on. And again, Sarah says like her and Dean are getting along great, but they ain't doing no hugs, they ain't doing no kissing, nothing like that. I don't know how they're getting on great when she literally says this man gives her the ick. She still talks about that there's no intimacy between them because she's not interested in him. She's not interested in him that way. I don't hold out any hope for these two that they will find any type of relationship with each other. And I do believe that they're flogging a dead horse. You see, Grace and Ashley are looking forward to the workshop, and Grace is happy to do it for Ashley. And Lee and Leah at this point, I would say, were actually being quite cute together. So intimacy, of course, as we know, isn't just about the sex either, and this is what Charlene was going to talk about with them. So each of them had to blindfold their people and have massage oil. So Ashley is massaging the back of Grace, and she's doing it. She wants to do it for him. Sarah is massaging Dean. He does make a sound, then literally like straight away quiets himself, and Charlene has to turn around and say, actually make sounds if you wish to at the end of the day. So Lee asks Leah to make some sounds. Leah turns to her and says, well, do it better then. Lee looked hella shocked by that comeback. Yeah, I was like, turnabout is fair play here, you know. You criticised this gal on her massage technique up in them Swiss Alps, yeah, so now it's Leah's turn. Yeah, I did laugh out loud, I ain't gonna lie, when Leah said that. So we get Dean. He's in his proper happy element, yeah. But the looks of Sarah's face wasn't telling me she was too comfortable, you know, touching Dean up in terms of giving him that massage. She basically does want things to go in the right direction, yeah. But all she thought, like, it was funny, and I think Dean was taking it more seriously than her. All I'm going to say is I'll be very, very, very shocked if Sarah decides she wants to jump on Dee's pogo stick after this, to be honest, or kiss the man. But I'll give it to her that she is giving it a go. So Grace is basically feeling stressed and outside of her comfort zone, but she's getting Ashley to put hands on her basically and give her that massage. For him, he understands and knows that it's uncomfortable for her, but he's happy that she tried. And I'm have to say, you know what, I'm proud of Grace too at this point too. So Dean is now able to touch Sarah because the couples then swap, and he enjoyed it, like immensely enjoyed it. But for me, Sarah was sitting on that chair with this blindfold on. She had no smile on her face at all, and she kind of looked like she literally was not enjoying herself at the end of the day. I think sometimes Sarah is playing in our faces at times when she says, you know, she's being more better with Dean. They are holding hands, which I have seen them do, but I do think that is just for the cameras. I think off cameras there's none of that shit going on at all at the end of the day. That's the impression that I'm getting, right? So we get from Sarah that, you know, Dean's making her super comfortable. She's getting rid of some of that tension she had, and like she said that he's good at giving massages, and then she says nothing else at the end of that. She's just not excited by him. She's just not excited by him. So Charlene does pipe up and actually say, out of all the couples, the most bond she's seen was between Ashley and Grace, basically, and saying that them two do have a really good connection with each other. So Charlene decided to kick it up a notch. Yes, she did, my people. She kicked it up a notch, yeah. Charlene opens this door in the wall, and I thought, oh, Are we being taken into the red room of pleasure? If you know, you know. Do you know what I mean? So they're then confronted with a table full of sex toys, strawberries, cream, all these other things, lingerie, the lot. Yeah, majority of those, except for the butt plugs. Let me just put it that way. Except for the butt plugs, yeah, would have been gone off that table. I would have said, come on, we're on this thing. Do you know what I mean? If me and my partner were vibing, we'd be taking that shit. I ain't even lying. So Sarah did surprise me when she picked up the crop and started smacking Dean on his chest, and he was saying to her, like, you can go harder, and he was like, ooh, like that every time she smacked him, and she was making little sounds too. And I thought, I think we found our niche that makes Sarah excited, people. So Dean made the joke, I think I will stay seated for a while, as in, you know, his old todgeroo was going to be doing the old doo-doo. Sarah did laugh, but she definitely did look down to at his package, and that's what made her laugh, because she caught on as to what it was he was talking about. And I was like, do you know what? Go on, Dean, go on. So Leah then tried to press the cream out of the strawberry squirty can. Came out with a little bit too much pressure, and bits shot out at Lee. So she basically had white stuff in her hair and on her face. It looked like small droppies of you know what, but I ain't saying nothing at the end of the day. Leah then decides that she's going to feed Lee a strawberry. The way in which she shoved that strawberry into that poor girl's mouth, I understood when Lee said she was not feeling sexy and sensual at all at that point, because neither would I, because what are you trying to do? Kill me with a motherfucking strawberry? Take your time, do you know what I mean? So Ashley then showed Leah how it should be done. He told Grace to open her mouth, which she obliged. He rubbed the strawberry along her bottom lip. I was like, oh my God. And then before tipping it up to allow her to bite into it softly, I thought, yeah, that was hella sensual. It really was. Even Lee commented, that's what I wanted, but not what I got. I said, sometimes Leah has to dial back in the jokey side of her, you know, because Lee has to politely sometimes guide Leah into what she wants. But I think with Lee, she's learning not to be so forceful with it like she was on the honeymoon at the end of the day. So then two then are sitting there at the table, not really connecting and not really saying anything, and it's looked like they've gone back to the awkward stages. So they basically had this little task to fill in the blanks. So your partner reads the card, and it then the other partner then has to fill in the blanks that you say. So Ashley says to Grace, right now I'm feeling, and Grace goes, intrigue. I thought Grace has a damn little sexy voice going on right there, do you know what I mean? She should read some stories, if you know. So Lee said, I love it when, and Lee said, you are cuddly and tactile. That's all well and good, that's nice, but I think, we wanted a little bit more. You're in a room full of stuff. But then on the flip side, Leah did not make her feel sexy. Leah did not bring out Lee's sensual side with the shit that she was doing at the end of the day. So as she said that, Leah then had to go and ruin it by saying something stupid like, well, she doesn't say a lot of nice things, and then try to claw it back by saying, well, I mean often. And I thought, Leah, come on now. Leah, come on. Give Lee her dues when she needs them at the end of the day, because she is trying. She is, and you can see that she's trying. So that was slightly immature of Leah to do at the end of the day, and it does get Lee's back up, yeah. And to be honest, I don't blame her. I really don't blame her, because that was not very nice of Leah. And I mean, the girl is getting kisses out of her at the end of the day, and that's a mean feat when it comes to Lee, because she knows Leah is not necessarily a type, but she's starting to gather those feelings for her. So Lee basically said to Leah, like, I would appreciate it a bit more, yeah, if you just stopped with the backhanded comments, which I do agree with her on at the end of the day, because it does become a bit much when someone constantly chips away at you on how to do things or whatever it is that you're lacking in. So we go back to the other couples who didn't do this task at hand. So basically, Julia, Ruth and Devani have a values ranking task. All I thought is, oh my God, this is not going to bode well for these two, because even I could see that they're so far poles apart when it comes to what it is that they want out of a marriage or a relationship. Let's just say their values definitely did not align. Davani put sex at being number 8 and children at the top. Stands to reason he has a son. So Julia Ruth put humour and sex in her top 4 basically, and children ranked at 9. I thought, okay. I felt that her top 4 was kind of superficial, to be honest with you, as she put intelligence and ambition pretty low as well. So Julia Ruth basically said that she has questions for Davani because of the fact that he put sex and looks being very, very low. So as Davani's explaining it to her, like, he wants to know the person before anything else. I didn't understand why she was nitpicking at the end of the day, his choices apart. He actually did think about why he placed the things where he placed them. And all Julia Ruth, to me, could do was moan about that he put sex and looks at the bottom. Because she couldn't believe that looks and sex would be the last thing on a man's mind. I was like, okay. And I just thought that that's probably because of the men that you were dealing with at the end of the day. Not all men are the damn same, to be honest with you. And this is like what I say is a part of Julie Ruth's issues, because she likes to judge Davani by her own yardstick and not listen to what he does say at the end of the day. She wants to combat him all the time, and this is a prime example, because just because she doesn't believe that it's real from her experience, and it is kind of open to interpretation, this is what Davani is saying is important to him. So why should it be any less important than her reasons at the end of the day? So this is the way that Julia Ruth, she took it as like it was a personal insult to her. I don't get how she got that. I really don't. So then we go to Rebecca and Bailey, and they talk about like the X-Files. So it's a series of questions they have to ask each other for them to delve deeper with each other. Rebecca talks about her ex when he was her fiance and how she broke his heart, because that's what the question was for her. And I thought at least she recognised how he may have felt in that moment when she said no to him in his engagement. But I have to give it to her, at the end of the day, she did what was best for herself. So Anita and Paul and David and Kia have been given the Ask Me Anything task. As of course with David and Kia, they're close anyway, and they're really working through their relationship and their marriage. And Kia does end up getting deep, although we know it's hard for him to do so, and he talks about what went wrong in his previous relationships, and he talks about how he would change himself to fit them at the end of the day. And if I'm completely honest, David just validates everything that Kia is saying, and also basically tells him that with me you don't have to change yourself at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the people that were with him previously obviously didn't know Kia enough to not wish for him to change, but that's what he did, and that's what he felt he had to do. So David did ask 3 things Kia would change about him, and David did bring up Kia did bring up David's job in terms of a flight attendant. He then also says to him that David gets into his head about his perspective on his body image, and Kia wants to change that for him. And I'm like, them two are just doing all the right things, and long may it bloody continue, and hopefully someone won't come along and try and put a spanner in the works because they get jealous of them, because you know how some people's minds think up in this place anyway. That some of them have not got 2 screws put together that God gave them, to be honest. So then we go to Paul and Anita, and I thought Paul had questions, and I was like, raw, okay then. So Paul asked, will you give the marriage enough time so I can love you for you? So Anita basically answered, well, how long is a piece of string? And as in how much time? I'm like, how much time would you need though, Anita, to be honest with him? How much time would you give him in that sense? So she's basically saying that if he is not giving what she needs now, that will change with more time. Will that change with more time? Anita said she's not in a hurry. She just wants to know where his mind is at and how committed he will be. So Paul asked, like, are you expecting me to be committed to you after 2 weeks? And Anita said the clue is in the title, Married at First Sight. But to be fair to Paul, you are virtually strangers. You're literally just getting to know each other. Yeah, you may be married. Yeah, you may have that ring on your finger, but you are strangers to each other. You never met each other in real life before until now. So you have to give some degree of time for him to be able to believe if he can forge that commitment with you. The problem with these two is they don't listen to each other. each of them do have valid points, so I'm going to give it to them. Each of them do have valid points in terms of where it is they're coming from, but they don't listen to each other at the end of the day. Anita said it could be like 6 years before he gets a spark, and Anita says she don't have time to wait. So basically Anita's back in that situation that she had with her ex, the one that she was with for many years, who decided that this is not working for him, they're not aligning, so he upped and left her on Christmas Eve, and she hasn't gotten over that. So for her now, she's countering the fact of her age, she's countering the fact of where she is in her life right now, and yes, she wants to be able to share something with someone, but she wants it on a here right now basis, and it doesn't necessarily work like that. So Anita is basically, as I said, doesn't want to waste another 17 years with someone, yeah, and it never come to fruition at the end of the day. So then we go to Maeve and Joe, and they get a visit from Paul, because Paul wanted to talk to Maeve a little bit more in regards to what she'd said at the commitment ceremony. And she does say, like, you know, she talks about the negativity of her ex and how he brought her down, and she began to believe all the negative things that he'd said about her, that she was too loud, she was brash, her body wasn't up to scratch, all of that. So she finds it very hard to take a compliment, and I have to say that I did in the past find it very hard to take a compliment. It takes a lot of work for me to say, oh, thank you. Or if someone says, oh, you're a really nice person, I it's not with arrogance that I say it, but I say yeah or no, because I know that I am. It took a long time for me to get to that point to be happy with myself, let me tell ya. This is why I say I love May for real. I really do. So her and Joel are good together, and they show that they are good together. She was learning to take compliments and say them back to herself in the mirror, and Joel was literally trying to push her to do this as well. So the groups end up going out. So the lads and some of the galleys, including Kia, meet up. So Sarah does chat openly about where she is with Dean. She basically says that it's too early to tell if the workshop brought her closer to Dean, and all I'm going to say is, to be honest, you would know if it did or not at the end of the day, because that workshop is designed to make you want to be more intimate with your partner, not necessarily sex, but wanting the hugs, the cuddles, the kisses, the holding hands, doing things together. You would know if that was going to bring you closer to your partner, and if you're still not sure at this point, then it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen, and that's why I just cannot believe the guff that comes out of Sarah's mouth half the time. So Leah did say, like, she spoke to Dean after the commitment ceremony and told him that he's placed Sarah on a pedestal, and that's very true. He has. She reminded Dean that he had to be there for himself too. Sarah didn't like that. You could tell on her face that she didn't really like that, but he has placed her on this preferable pedestal. Yeah. So Leah and Lee didn't have the best night the night before. And this is sometimes when I do question Sarah's interest when other people are speaking, because she says, oh, did you not? It didn't make it sincere at all, and I think it's because of the back of what Leah had said to Dean, basically. So Leah told them that Lee believed Leah had gone to Rebecca and said, I fancy you. But it wasn't like that at all. So Rebecca did shed some light on it and said it may have been because Leah had said that Rebecca is more her type. And I thought, Leah, why would you say that to Lee? No, honestly speaking, why would you say that to Lee, especially when you're all on a night out? Yeah. So Rebecca then said, I also then counteracted and said, you feel like home to me, because Leah reminds her of the people that she gravitates towards to, and her friends at home. And I thought, well, damn, that would do it. That would definitely do it. Because you don't say those things to a fellow wife, in front of a wife who's more than likely going to get jealous by hearing that, going to feel bits of inadequacy by hearing that. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't fair of them to put that on Lee. I don't think, as I said, I don't think Leah was flirty with Rebecca. I think it was more about the banter between them two that Lee was probably jealous of, because she don't have that with Leah at the end of the day. So Stephen says to the guys that he never shows vulnerability as he believes it makes him look weak, and he based this on, I've shown hints of vulnerability to people in the past and they've took the piss with him. So he thinks about, like, you know, what other people think, as opposed to being on a show where you have to show vulnerability. Although it may be hard, it's about personal growth at the end of the day, and this is where I'm seeing a side of Stephen who will hurt Nelly fully, to be fair. Like, he says and admits that he's slowed down the intimacy with Nelly. There's less kissing and there's less hugging, so Bailey does step in and say to him, well, if you are doing that, then you need to be clear to Nelly why you are doing that at the end of the day, because as he heard on the couch, Nelly has noticed him drawing back since the honeymoon, but she doesn't know why he's doing that. Bailey's schooling Stephen, like, honestly schooling Stephen. I think Stephen sat there thinking he would get validation from the others, on his current behaviour, but he ain't doing it, because Stephen basically told them in a roundabout way he feels suffocated and wishes for space. Not good. It's not good at all. Bailey says he doesn't think that Nelly is needy at all. I don't necessarily think she's needy at all. I think Stephen is not doing the bare fucking minimum, and that's what's pissing her off, as to say, well, what's changed? What's going on with you? But he won't tell her. So yeah, he's gone completely cold on her without an explanation. Then he wanted to blame the situation that happened previously on her and Kia for how he felt. So David said, like, he needs to let go as he believes Stephen is overthinking it. So Kia and Nelly did talk in their group about what happened with Stephen. Nelly says, like, you know, he's pulled back, so now she's taking the step to pull back from him as well, and she's basically saying, well, it's his loss at the end of the day, and that's the other route that Nelly will take. But that is where this episode ended. I'll be back in quick succession with the next episode. As I always say, my renegades and all those new people that are coming in, if you like what you hear, if you like what I discuss, please continue to hit that subscribe button, please continue to hit that notification button so we know I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do the good things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1k. Peace out.